Welcome to A Seat at the Table Connect podcast, and I am Vuyelwa Diniso, the CEO of A Seat at the Table. This platform is all about shining a light on leadership and inspiring people, change makers for greatness. It's a place where people connect, engage, and are inspired. And today I am joined by Dida Copiso. He's a storyteller with a keen interest in personal brands, stories of resilience, unconventional journeys. And he does this while working in financial services sector, focusing on insurance. With that said, welcome, Dida.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor to be here. And dare I say, congratulations for your recent appointment.
Thank you.
All the best as you continue to engage, connect, and inspire 1 million+ ambassadors across the globe.
Thank you, Dida. I truly appreciate it. It's a huge task ahead, but I'm looking forward to it. Dida, tell us about you. Who is Dida and your journey?
Well, born and bred in the dusty streets of a township called Riston in East London, the Eastern Cape, I spent about 1 or 2 years of my formative life with my maternal grandmother, who according to tradition is my mother, in the rural areas, where I actually recall doing what pretty much every child does when they grow up, picking wild berries with friends, milking cows and goats, as well as unintentionally stealing guavas and peaches from neighbors' trees. I had to be reunited with my mother, who, as I said now, according to tradition, is actually my sister. And this was for easier and better access to education and health. And at the time that I moved to the township, I actually picked up on quite a lot of passions. One of them was speech. I thoroughly enjoyed all things speech, and I particularly wanted to join broadcasting and radio when I grew up. I was one of those kids that broke radio sets just to see who's speaking inside. Why do they speak the way they do? Where are they sitting and how do they look? And as fate would have it, in my matric, when I thought I would go on and pursue media after my matric, I learnt about the chartered accountancy profession, where the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, hereinafter SAICA, came to my school and selected myself, among other learners, to join a maths and science camp. That's where they taught us about the profession. And as fate would have it, that's what I pursued. I went to University of Fort Hare, and one of your guests here on this podcast actually spoke in detail about the historic value and the contribution that University of Fort Hare has had across the continent and the rest of the globe. I then proceeded to University of South Africa to get my postgrad, and this is the time when I was starting my articles. Once I was done with articles as well as qualifying board exams, I went on to the insurance sector, and that's where I've been. My job really is about advising executives and management on key decisions around premiums, around claims, around reinsurance, all things relating to insurance. And what that is about is telling a story of the numbers. All the stuff that comes in and can overwhelm you, how do you take all of that and make a key decision around that? We know insurance affects quite a number of different people and organizations. The whole idea of insurance is to restore you back to where you were in the case of any insurable incident happening. And so I thoroughly enjoy the job I do. And outside of that, I spend a lot of my time with individuals and organizations that champion education, entrepreneurship, and most importantly, future-looking skills. And that one of them is a sit at the table. I'm very proud to be an ambassador of the Institute.
Indeed, you are very much a part of us. See you there in part of the things that we are doing. And Dida, from stealing peaches and fruits in the township with your umakulu, and now this Mr. Chartered Accountant, such an interesting journey. I'm also interested to know, you could have been a lawyer, you could have been an engineer. Why a chartered accountant?
Well, that is a combination of exposure and fate. If I had been perhaps exposed to a different profession, maybe that's what I would have followed. But at the time that I was in matric, as I said, my aspirations were to be in radio. And it so turned out that because the Institute came and taught us about the chartered accountancy profession, that's pretty much what I followed. And one of the things I appreciated is the fact that now over time, professions can actually interlay and overlap amongst each other. So it wasn't an either or thing, but rather that I could pursue my chartered accountancy profession and that it would fund every other passion and interest that I had. And so that's how I ended up pursuing the profession. It was purely exposure as well as what I had at the time as knowledge to what I can possibly pursue.
Interesting. So now to someone who wants to be a chartered accountant and they're also now interested in unconventional journeys as you are, what would you advise them?
Well, there's quite a lot of information already around about what the paths are to qualify as a CA. So I'll not necessarily explore that. But one of the things I want to highlight is the ability to adapt to any sort of information that you get and understand the type of person that you want to be and where you want to end up. And by this, I don't mean the professional and laid out way of knowing the type of person you are. I mean, I myself didn't know or turn out to be an accountant, and I never even imagined or aspired to be one. So I'm not necessarily putting it out there to say somebody must know the type of person they want to be and that you must be sure that you want to be a CA. There are people that know that, and for some like myself, the fluidity and the adaptability to whatever information comes up is pretty much what works best. Research is important, and as I said, there's quite a lot of information that exists out there about various professions and how to branch into those. So going out there to do the research, to find the people that are already in that particular profession that perhaps one is interested in, those are some of the starting points where one finds themselves learning a lot more. And as you learn more, you can end up finding out, I don't actually want to be a chartered accountant. I want to be something else. And that's totally acceptable. That's your own journey as an individual. And for me personally, it was the different people that were available to answer my questions that helped me and propelled me to the kind of person I am.
Yes,
and most importantly, that I'm continuing to be every day.
Yeah, adaptability, and people must do their research. That's very much important, because often people just see these titles, lawyer, chartered accountant, but they don't really do the research. Even attending events to find out what is someone actually, what is this profession, what else it has to give. You get to know if truly this is something that you want to do or not. So yeah, I agree with you. Dida, when you look at your journey, your experiences, what would you say are the things that have fundamentally impacted your life and the person that you are today?
Foremost should be a community. I think having various people that support me in the journey, and I do believe that many different people do have, and I would hope that many different people would have somebody to support them in their own journeys. I recall, in particular, I think as it relates to my profession and my professional journey, when I decided to leave the Eastern Cape, and at that time I didn't qualify to pursue postgrad in that institution, I decided to come to the Gauteng province. And at that time I needed well over 10,000, and a bulk of it was registration fees, and everything else was about moving costs and all. I do recall my matric teachers, many of them notably women, coming together to put money together to help this young person, because they believed you were going to pursue what you wanted to pursue, and most importantly that you were going to get there. In particular, I remember a lady that asked to remain anonymous at all times that actually came to me and said, here is 7,000 rands in cash. You don't have to repay me. Go on and pay for your registration and do exactly this to someone else. And so that is just one example. But the idea is that different people across different stages of my life have come together to say, we'll support you and push you where you need to get in various ways. One financially, one emotionally, spiritually, different ways of support. But I think that for me has been the fundamental part of who I am, and not just professionally, but holistically as an individual, where different people come together as a community and say, we'll support you. And I've actually rebranded my name DIDA to Discovered in Dusty Areas. And the reason for this is because of different people that continue to say, we see you, we believe in you, go on there and do exactly the same for someone else as well.
Discovered in dusty places. That's dusty a good
areas word. For DIDA.
Discovered in dusty areas. Yes. Wow. That's deep, Dida. That's deep. And yeah. And you're saying there were people in your journey who assisted you, which says to me, find your community, because we've all had those people, who just come in and help, and you're like, what can I do? And they're like, no. And you found your people, and they've led to where you are today. I think there's a quote that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will present themselves.
Absolutely. And I'll finish that off as we did before this, that when the student is ready, a teacher will appear. And when that student is prepared, a teacher will disappear. And the reason for that is for that student to continue to be a teacher to other people as well. You cannot continue to be taught all the time, at least not by the same person.
when the teacher is done, the teacher will disappear. Some of us want to hold on to that teacher. That do not go, teacher.
They've got to
Stay.
continue and pour on someone else's cup as well.
Yeah.
And so when you're ready, you must be able to let them go. And that's been the case with my own life as well.
And also, they can't journey your life for you. I think when you are ready, then it's time to go, you know. Like an eagle. Once the kids are ready to fly, they literally just push them off the nest to say, fly, you're ready. So I think that speaks to that. Dida, you speak a lot about resilience, you know. You say a lot about resilience in your stories. What does resilience mean to you?
Perhaps it means pretty much what it means to everybody else. Accepting what was, embracing what currently is, and actively preparing for what's to come. I think you can watch as many podcasts and listen to as many recordings and read as many books about resilience. The only way to actually learn resilience is to be in the challenges, to be in the trials and the tribulations. I've personally myself have had to shield quite a lot of various issues. I mean, particularly as it relates to my profession, one of them is what I've mentioned, the actual challenge of physically not having the amount of money that I need to pursue the dream that I pursued. One of the most terrible things that happened to me that I actually embrace every now and then is the passing of my own mother in my own hands, and I keep her for 8 hours in my room. And in fact, at the time having to prepare for the first board, guess what? The first board was actually moved to her birthday. And I went on to pursue that first board, and I thrived in it. And I think the whole idea of resilience, in my view, is exactly that: accepting what actually happened and embracing the current moment while looking forward to what's to come in the future. There is no way to learn resilience than to actually be challenged and embrace those challenges as they are. And for me personally, that's pretty much what resilience has always been about: to get into the challenge itself and accept that indeed it is the challenge. Of course, I'll cry about it. Pretty much everybody doesn't want to be in a challenge, but the whole idea at times about challenges is that they teach us a lesson to carry forward for a different challenge. That's not always the case. Sometimes we suffer for no reason at all, but at times some of the reasons why we suffer is because there's a particular lesson to learn from that. And so what it is, in my view, is it's really that. It's about accepting what is, embracing what you currently have at the moment, and actively looking forward and thinking there's a better time than the current.
Wait, Dida, that's deep. When your mom passed on your hands for 8 hours and you were just carrying her.
Yes, I stayed on and nobody was
coming. And then
you
went on to attend a board meeting.
A board exam. Yes. It's part of life.
How do you even concentrate? Did you even cry? Like,
did.
What happened? Like, that's deep.
I did. I mean, it's a traumatic experience, of course, and the reality is, if it's happening, then it's happening. The one thing that kept me personally going is that I still had to get her body back home. I still had to get her buried, and I was the only person that's this side with her, and I needed to get all of this happening. And if I break down, which I should, I will not be able to get all of this stuff done. And so what mattered at that point was the immediate. I wasn't looking at the exam that's coming. I wasn't looking at the next door neighbor. I wasn't looking at anybody else. In fact, I wasn't even thinking resilience. I wasn't even thinking preaching and all of that stuff. All I was interested in is, let's get this body out of here and let's get the body back home. Let's get it buried. And so from that moment, we can start the grieving and the resilience part.
I hope you passed that board exam.
I absolutely did.
Okay.
Wouldn't be here if I didn't.
That is deep. And with this resilience notion, how would you advise other people to be as resilient, and to focus on the outcome while bearing or knowing whatever obstacle that they are faced with at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. As I said, you can listen to as many podcasts and watch as many recordings and read as many books about resilience. There's no lesson that you're going to learn if you're not actually challenged yourself. And I guess that's pretty much anything and everything that we face, that everybody can come with the lessons and teach us what to do. You do it this way.
Wait. So there's no lesson that you can learn?
No, there is.
When you're not willing to be resilient and face some obstacles.
Perhaps if you put it that way, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea about getting into the battlefield is to actually see if you've learned anything. And that's the case in sports. That's the case in life in general. People will teach you about business, and you can read all the business books. You can go and do an MBA. And if you haven't actually started business and failed and started once again and failed and all, you can't necessarily say that you've got the skill that comes with starting a business. All that you've learned is really just that. It's purely theory. And so the way for me that I believe works well with resilience as well is get into the challenge. And it's not actively to say, hey, I'm inviting challenges, let them come my way. No, it's absolutely not that. None of us want challenges. I would like a smooth life. But really, when it comes at that point, the acceptance that what happened really did happen.
It really did happen.
And I'm here now. And the most
really
important thing is there's a
happen.
different time to now. I must still be here to embrace the new time that's coming. And so if I face this challenge and I think it's the end all and be all, whatever I had hoped for in the future, I'll probably not get to it. And so I must constantly think there's a better time. There's a different time to this. And again, I'd like to emphasize, I'm not speaking here and trying to say I'm the strongest and that I don't cry and I don't whatnot and I don't whatnot. I absolutely do. I mean, I spend a lot of my time crying several times. Now I still do, perhaps when different things don't work out the way they're supposed to.
So it's accepting that it has happened and how you can move forward from that.
Absolutely.
And don't run away from the challenge. Because if you run away, you'll constantly always be running away, dealing with it like head on, facing it.
Many say you can run, but you can't hide.
You can't. And that's life. I think people just see the beautiful flowers, the beautiful photos on Instagram, and they think people's lives or journeys are just flowery. And they want to be like Dida, but they fail to understand that there's a journey that came with Dida. There's things that he went through. And if you truly say you want to be like Dida, do you also want the other things that he went through, which made him the person that he is? So yeah, that's a very important story about resilience. I think people need to understand that as you journey and as you move to the things that you want, there will be some obstacles, and it doesn't mean you should give up. It doesn't mean there's something wrong. It's part of the story. And you must just constantly keep going.
I like that you say that actually, because there's a saying, you inherit a farm with its snakes.
Yeah.
If you want any benefit at all, you've got to be able to put up with the costs. You give and take, Baba. There's no taking and taking.
Hey, the way you say it, Dida.
It's life.
Some of us don't want problems.
Neither do I. I don't want any
problems, guys. Yeah. And also you speak about personal branding a lot. I've just been looking at your profile, and you say a lot about personal branding. I know right now everyone's talking about it, like personal branding. Why is it important to people's careers? Why is it important for individuals to not just think about their jobs, but also their personal brands? Why?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say perhaps personal branding, or just branding in general, is not necessarily just what happens on the internet and online. Branding starts off with the person or whatever corporate is doing the branding itself. My mother, when I was young, used to live with me to work every single morning. And I would have to go to school. We would leave the house perhaps around 5 a.m. School starts at 8. And the reason why this all had to happen is because as we walk, she would say, walk as though you are walking on eggshells. Hamba ngathi uhambe emaqandeni. And the whole reason for this is you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of your shoes. Those shoes must last you for a long time. You must get to school on time. You must be punctual. You must get to school having rested and all of those things. That was branding on its own, because certain teachers identified you because you this one child that's always clean. You're not rushing to school. You're the child that's always here very much on time. When you need to engage, you are here because you woke up on time. You're well prepared for the school and whatnot. That's just one example. But the whole idea that I'm trying to get to is that branding on its own starts off before the internet. It starts off before what we say online. I mean, for example, if one brand, sit at the table in this reason, goes out for this example, goes on and says, we do this, yet we know very well they do the total opposite. You will know that. And as a result, whatever branding they do won't necessarily align. And so the importance of first working on self, the punctuality and the reliability. When you said you will do this, even if you go on online and brand yourself as somebody who does what you said you would do, if you don't actually do it, you don't do it. And so I think, and I believe that branding starts before that. It starts on the individual self. And if we're talking on personal branding, starts on individual self, doing what you said you would do, getting here when you said you would get here, at the time that you said you'd get here, and do the stuff that you're supposed to do. And if you can't meet a certain deadline, you speak up well in advance or closer to the time. You say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, and I don't think I'll meet the deadline. And not just end it there, but go on and make an alternative to say, I'll not be able to meet this, but I can work at different time, or I can go on and chase a different deadline to try and meet this. So I can hit two birds with one stone, where I may not make you smile with this as my manager, but I'll make you smile with two different things at the same time. And so I'd like to believe that perhaps branding starts off first within self. Before I go in and write anything online about myself that I'll paint myself as having to do, so that whenever it comes out, people can say, I know Dida does that. I know very well whatever Dida brands himself to do is actually that type of person. So working on self, on all the things that matter. And then online happens after. And many a times it happens seamlessly. We know this with corporate brands as well. A brand or an organization that does things a certain way, when they go on and tell the people they do that, people go on and believe it, because that's what you do on the ground, and we've seen it.
So your actions build a certain reputation about you.
I thought you'd say actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
So, and then it creates this branding. It's not about just posting and creating this image which you do not action.
That's right.
It's about integrity also.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if a young person now is excited, has been watching this podcast, and they know now about personal branding and they want to brand themselves, where would you say they should start?
As I mentioned, perhaps with self, I think it's important that we do what needs to be done and work on ourselves. There's absolutely no point in branding what doesn't work. You'll go on around and say, this wheelbarrow will do this and do this for you. If it doesn't have the will to move around, even if you paint it, you put a nice picture on it, you put it on Instagram or whatever social media platform, and you advertise it, somebody will say the wheelbarrow doesn't have a will. Or the wheelbarrow cannot be held. It does have a will. And so to work on self, I think, is the very first step. But again, broader to that, it may also be about engaging further in whatever platform one endeavors to engage in. There are various platforms today. There's TikTok, there's Facebook, there's that and that. It may perhaps be good advice to go on and engage in that platform. Start off by looking at the people that perhaps you want to engage with, and the types of content that you want to do. Engage a lot more with that. And by engage, I mean go on and comment, go on and like, go on and forward, and go on and share. Share your comments and your views. Perhaps from sharing those views, you might end up having to run your own content from that as well, because many are people I've heard that go on to say, I'm doing this podcast because somebody asked about it in a comment section, or whatever the case may be. And so to engage actively in whatever the platform one endeavors to engage in, or they see themselves branding themselves on, it would be great to first go start on that space and engage further on that. And all in good time, they'll find themselves engaging further on that platform.
I like the fact that you're insisting, and you insist that people have to be self-aware before they can build a brand. Because honestly, if you don't know what you're trying to brand, what are you trying to brand? So it's important that you know yourself and what you're putting out there. Absolutely. So you can confidently do it because you know what it is that you are putting out there.
Absolutely. Or else you'll end up wanting to sound like anybody else out there. I'll want to sound like a certain celebrity or a certain actor or a certain whatnot, because that's not necessarily who I am, but that's what I see people do. And they're doing it well. I'm not necessarily forbidding any of that, but to say Bonang speaks a certain way, and Beyonce speaks a certain way, or Jay-Z and whatnot, and perhaps I could also be like that. It works for some people, and for some it doesn't, because it's pretty much not who you are.
And we want to know you, what you're bringing, and so that we can start liking this brand that you are. And with that said, what lessons from your own personal journey would you like young people to know and to take with?
Gereza. Must hustle. You've got to hustle, of course. Gereza, hustle. Don't ever stop. I think the one thing I know for sure is the world will write anybody off at a point. There are different people that will say what they say and all of that stuff. The one person that must still be with you when the world does all that is yourself. And the moment you start giving up on yourself, when the world comes to shower the water down, unfortunately, you probably may not survive. And so for my own self, personally, it's always been about that self-backing. And it's some of the things that my mother taught me at a very young age. Wear that shoe even if it's 5 rand, but take care of it. Walk as though you're walking on eggshells. Go one day even if you don't have lunch, but engage with the other kids and all of that. Believe in yourself and know very well that I have what truly matters. I'll get somewhere at some point in future. I mean, if we didn't believe in ourselves, perhaps we wouldn't even still be alive. You go on a daily basis. You combine what you have at home because you know very well at a point I'll eat better. At a point I'll afford better. At a point I'll do better. It's really just going through a certain path of your life. But the most important part of it is that self-belief. Because who backs somebody who doesn't believe in themselves in the first place? We started off the conversation talking about a community. It's going to be difficult to find a community, let alone have that community support you if you don't believe in yourself. People support somebody that says, I need 7,050 rand 28 cents for this. That's very specific. I'm going to give you 7,028 cents if you need that.
Yeah, be
But if you
careful.
go
People are going to come say they want the money.
No, I'm not saying myself. I don't have any of that myself. But the whole concept and idea is you know what your problem and you can articulate it very well. Leave the fact that you don't have it yet. But that self-belief and confidence that I'll stand in front of Vuyelwa, who's an attorney. I want to be an attorney myself. Vuyelwa, I need 5 rands. And I'm very specific with my challenge. I believe that I'm going to be able to do this once you give me the 5 rand. So that's self-belief. And again, I've gone in and spoke about it in a fluffy way, but the whole concept and idea is the waking up on a daily basis in Gereza. And we see this every single day in the streets. Different people wake up and they just work.
They just work. Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. If you don't bet on yourself, who's going to believe in you? So you need to believe in yourself first before anybody else can. And I think that's a deep one because as your journey, things will happen in your journey. You need to believe in yourself. That will carry you even with other things in life, personal things. You need to have a strong belief in yourself. Yeah, thank you, Dida. I want to also ask you that because you've got such impressive stories and your journey is deep. You know, I've been seeing Dida at a sit at the table. I didn't know you've got such deep stories.
Mustn't look like your problems.
Oh, that's a good one. No, they're not problems, Dida. I think they are very inspiring stories that you find that every one of us have those stories, you know, and you are confident to own your story and to say, this is how I got to where I am, you know, and people should own their stories. There's a reason it happened, you know. So with that, I want to ask, what if your younger self would see you today, what do you think they would say to you?
Firstly, they would be confused I ended up an accountant. They would have thought I went on with broadcasting as I was very much into it. I did 2 years of community radio at a point in my high school. And I thoroughly enjoyed that quite a lot. And I really thought I would end up in radio at a point. Not so much of a television person. I don't have the face and all for that. But the radio part, and I still die for radio to this day. The theater of the mind. It just gives the thought of, who's this? Why are they speaking like this? Who's there? The curiosity and all. So if my younger self were to look, they'd first be confused that I turned out to take a different profession. But most importantly, I'd like to believe that be proud. They would be proud of all the stuff that I actually had to go through that I'm perhaps yet to still go through, but I still have that positive outlook. And this is something I'd like to perhaps hit on anybody that's listening out there to say, when one's younger self is looking, they've got to be proud when they look at self. One may not necessarily be where they want to be, but the whole idea is to be at a different place than the day before. I'm not competing with you. I'm not competing with the next person. I'm competing with myself. I wasn't where I am now a year ago or even a day ago. And so my younger self would be absolutely proud. I'd hope so.
Oh, that's beautiful. Compete with yourself and nobody else. With yourself and who you were yesterday. That's a good one. Okay, Dida, we are almost done with the conversation. But let's do something more interesting and fun. So finish this sentence. Leadership in South Africa needs more of?
Leadership in South Africa needs to be more corruption-free. And that's just me finishing that part off. But if I may justify it, please. I firstly, when I speak on leadership, I'm not purely speaking of government in the public sector. Absolutely mean that. I mean, notably, the government has to be as corruption-less as possible. but I'm speaking generally across leadership in our own personal lives, in our communities and all. One ought to think less of what belongs to someone else as their own. What you have is yours, and what's allocated for other people must be for the other people. Nothing that belongs to someone else should be in your pocket without that someone knowing that you took it to your own pocket. That's the first part I want to clarify. But the second part really is, I do acknowledge, as it relates to the government, I do acknowledge the strides that government has done over the years. I mean, I myself, when I stretched my hand out of my mother's womb and I cried my lungs out, I was taken care of by a nurse in a public hospital, Frere Hospital in East London. I went on to an RDP house. I had access to water, access to education throughout until higher education and all. And so I do acknowledge that indeed there are parts of and facets of government that work, but that's not the reality for all South Africans. If I may add, that's not the reality of all people in Africa and the rest of the world. And at the core of it is corruption. He or she who thinks, oh, there's 100 rands here, I can take 90 to myself and help the people at 10. We need a lot less of that. We can try and talk professionalization of the public sector. We can try and talk whistleblowers. We can try and talk all these mechanisms to try and help public sector to work. If corruption is still at the core, all of these parts will fall apart. Whistleblowers will continue to be killed. Unfortunately, we recently saw the documentary on Miss Babita Deokaran and many others. If corruption is still at the core, there will still continue to be issues. So I think leadership in South Africa today needs to be more corruption-free.
You heard it, guys. Leadership in South Africa needs to be corruption-free. I also am interested to know, it's interesting to know that you're also touching on the positive that the government has also done, which says you're not negative, you're not focusing on the negative, you actually are concerned. And it's important that, yes, there is some good. However, now there's this big thing, which is corruption, and we really, really, really need to work on it. And hopefully our country will start doing something about it. Thank you for sharing your story so openly. It's truly inspiring. Your journey reminds us that leadership begins where self-awareness and courage starts, I think it's important for us to be self-aware. It's important as it helps with a lot of things, with hard decisions. As you journey, you heard Dida's story about resilience and the things that he went through, self-branding. So if you are self-aware, then you're able to lead courageous. You're able to have that confidence, whereas it's very important. To our viewers, thank you for joining us. You'll find us on our social media links below. Please follow us so you can know what we're doing. Also, if you did enjoy this conversation, do subscribe to this channel and do click that notification button so that you never miss another episode. And thank you for joining us and watching this conversation. I hope to see you on the next episode.